Duane Duggan, Remax Boulder Video Podcast. Today we have DB Wilson. Thanks for being here again today.
Thanks for having me.
DB is our stats guru we like to call him, and he is keeping us informed about the marketplace in the Boulder County area. So DB, let's start out with kind of defining what stats we watch on a month-to-month basis.
Okay, what we're looking at, Duane, is Boulder County, and this is January through April of this year. We look at 10 different things. The number of listings on the market, the average sales price, the median sales price, the sales price to list price, the days on the market, number of expired listings, total number of sales, months of inventory, the percentage of properties on the market that are under contract, and finally the interest rate.
Interest rate, okay, so 10 factors we want to monitor on a month-to-month basis. Why don't we kick off with single family first and how they're doing in those 10 areas?
Okay, what we're starting to see actually in both attached dwelling and single family, but we will focus on single family, is an increase in the number of listings on the market. So this is beneficial for buyers, obviously. We're actually about 100 properties more this year than we were a year ago at the end of April. Still, overall, when you look at the historic trends, we're still really quite low, but we've got 822 this year. A year ago at this time, 718, so you can see it's increasing.
So this is probably one of the first years where inventory went a little above the prior year, because when we remember our 20-some year graph, it's dropped down pretty much every single year.
Absolutely. This is the first pop-up, actually, and I believe it's 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
Now, we're still low,
right?
But you're right, that is a significant trend, that difference to the trends that we're seeing. Now, the median sales price, we're now in the county at $559,500. That's up from a year ago at $515,000, so about a little over 8% increase there. As far as the average, we're about $677,800. We're really seeing the bottom end just be non-existent now. That too is about 8% higher than a year ago when we were at $623,000. But under 300, there's very few properties.
Right.
Very few properties.
Tough on that first-time buyer.
It is for sure. It's a bit of a challenge. One thing that is interesting to see, that the sales price to list price is now dropping slightly. It's still very strong at 99.2. A year ago at this time it was 99.7. Probably 96 or 97 is more of a even-keeled market, so it's still favoring the sellers, but it is interesting to note that that's
mellow it out a little bit.
Days on the market is virtually the same as a year ago, just 3 days shorter. The number of sales is almost exactly even with a year ago, with 838 transactions. A year ago at this time it was 832.
Okay.
Interesting, in 2015 that was over 900. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The absorption rate, or the months of inventory that we look at, is now bumped up to 3.9 from 3.2 a year ago. That's of interest just because that is getting more into a stable kind of market. It's still favoring the sellers. A stable market would be considered 5 to 7 months worth of inventory. So 3.9 still demonstrating that's a seller's market, but it is starting to climb.
Balance out a little bit.
It is.
Okay.
It is. We've had a big jump in expired listings, big jump being from 8 a year ago to 21 this year. But that's a listing that comes on the market and never sells. You know, I think a lot of people always think that everything ultimately sells, and that is not the case here. As I mentioned, 50% of the active listings are under contract. That's still a very strong number, and we expect continued appreciation because of that strong number. Interest rates now are at 4.05% as of the end of April. That's up from a year ago at 3.61. It's actually down slightly from the end of March, which was at 4.2. That does affect the affordability for buyers, but it's such a low point historically. You know, historically, I think the last 40 years is about 8.5%. So 4.05 is still a great interest.
Right, and usually this time of year too, the demand forces it up a little bit, but that really didn't happen for some reason this year.
It has not.
Okay, that summarized single families. How are attached dwellings looking?
Attached dwelling, we look at the same 10 categories as we do for single family. One of the most significant things is the jump in inventory for attached dwellings. A year ago at this time, we had 138 for all of Boulder County. Now we have 198, so it's a fairly substantial increase, 43% or so. What's interesting though is 63% of those are still under contract, so those are being absorbed.
Rapidly, right?
Right, and consequently the months of inventory available is still down at 2.2, demonstrating an extremely strong seller's market. A year ago, we were seeing price jumps 20-30%. Now we're in a more reasonable area, which I think is really good for the long-term market, showing some stability as opposed to just kind of, well, extremely high appreciation. The median is up to $360,000 now. That's about a 5% increase from a year ago at $342,000. Average price is over $400 now, $408,100 about, compared to a year ago at $370,000. So that's about a 10% jump.
Oh.
So it's still pretty strong. Sales price to list price is still over 100%. So it's, again, favoring a seller at 100.3, but that is down from where it was a year ago. So we're starting to see
Getting a little softening.
change.
Not quite as crazy as it was.
I'm not sure I'd even call it softening,
Okay.
but a more,
Flattening,
a
right.
more realistic
Okay.
kind of figure. The number of sales is up 30%, and that is largely because we have more inventory to sell, and we've had 367 sales year to date through the end of April. Again, I think that's showing that we can handle the increase in inventory, and it's much better for a buyer. Obviously, they've got more choices, but still a great time for a seller to sell. We've had one expired listing all year. That's exactly where we were a year
Right.
ago.
Condos are still a hot item.
They are. I think in review, we're starting to see some changes with the market, things that we actually think are better for the long-term stability of the market, and still seeing healthy appreciation, and yet it's in a more acceptable level, I think, and one that will assure that we won't have any kind of a bubble coming
Right.
up or anything like that.
A little stability. All right, DB, thanks for being here. Monthly report, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Duane Duggan, Remax Boulder, video podcast, signing off.